Please.
I'll add these two things. So I'm
So,
going to. You say?
boss, hello, boss. Please can you help record, please? I just got to beg you. I don't know how to do it from here. This session.
Don't worry, I'm recording.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir. Yes, sir.
because some other people may need it.
Yes, all right, sir.
So I'm running. If you look at my pop spec, I've added I've added a I've added Flutter Riverpod, and I've added Dio. So I would
Yes, yes, boss.
let me see if I can add. Okay, no, that would do. Nothing too complex. So let's just wait for the app to launch, and then we can start. Oh my god, and we can start. I hate all these
Um,
comments.
please, what's the difference between the Riverpod hooks and the Flutter Riverpod itself? Because I keep seeing
Okay,
the Amazon and
they are almost the same, but if you read the documentation, you will see that where Remy Rooslet said that Flutter Riverpod is much better if you're going to be handling if you're going to be doing a project in Flutter. But using Riverpod, just Riverpod is, let's say you're working on that, you're just working on that on a Dart project and you want to be maintaining states. So this is the official documentation. I think riverpod.dev. Exactly. So like, if you go through the documentation, get started, where they talked about the concept. Is it the concept? I think no here. So there are three of them. There is Flutter Riverpod, there is Hooks Riverpod, and there is Riverpod. So this is, if you look at Flutter Riverpod, it says a basic way of using Riverpod in Flutter. So you're using Riverpod in Flutter. But now if you look at Riverpod, it says a version of Riverpod with all the classes related to Flutter stripped out. Did you see the difference? Flutter is a Dart framework. So Dart still exists even without Flutter. You understand? So if you're working on a project, let's say a Dart project, and okay, let's just say, imagine you are using Serverpod, a Dart server to build your remote server, and somehow you want to be maintaining states across. So you will not go and be using Flutter Riverpod there, because that one is just that. But what you will use instead is what? Riverpod. Do you see the difference? So there are some classes inside the Flutter River. Are you here with me? Hello? I think you're not here anymore. What happened? I was talking to myself since.
yeah, sorry, it was my internet that
No problems. So I don't know where you left off, but I was just trying to say that this Riverpod works independent of Flutter. So if you read this stuff, you will see the difference. It's clear. This one has all of Flutter classes, any class that is related to Flutter stripped out. So it kind of streamlines your project down to just Riverpod, while this one has things that you necessarily need for Flutter. So
okay, boss.
let me let me implement a very simple. I think what I'll just do is I will change this counter app now that uses set state. The normal counter app. So if you count from zero to, if you keep incrementing, it keeps adding. But the bad thing with this counter app now is that if you look at something, print, let's say, object. Hmm?
Yes, boss.
This is your widget tree. from the very start of this, okay, maybe not start,
Abba.
somewhere here where the status bar ended. So from the status
Yes.
bar down to this bottom nav bar, flutter controls it. So the widget tree keeps rebuilding every single time. Now if I click on this now, you see what happens. These objects gets printed. That is because the entire screen
It's
rebuilt.
building.
Yes. So anytime you call set state, the entire screen rebuilds itself. So but that's not what we want. So if we want to change that, look at what we can do. We can remove this stuff here, and then we'll use a, so Riverpod, basically if you look at concepts in Riverpod, if you look at providers, you will see that where Remy said where he stated the different kinds of providers. So there is your normal provider, there is your state provider, there is your future provider,
Future
the
stream
stream
provider.
provider, the change state
Stream
notifier
provider.
provider, and the change notifier provider. So personally, for all the projects I've ever done on Riverpod, I only use these four: state provider, feature provider, stream provider, and state notifier provider. I've not had any need to use the normal provider,
Provider.
and I've not had any need to use change notifier. Reason being that even if I wanted to use provider, there I can still make my state provider behave like a provider. So this four just, even inside this four now, this stream provider was just for one project. So the ones I use very often is state
Is
provider,
state and future
feature with state notifier provider.
notifier.
Good.
Okay.
So state provider, if you read what it says, you see that it is a provider that exposes a way to modify its state. It is a simplification of the state notifier provider. You see that all of them are what, intertwined with each other.
Yes, sir.
So now, having said that, or having read that from the documentation, so we want, we want to constantly be watching the state of this increment, this 11 0 1 2 3 4. So what we can do is we can just have a state provider. Let's call it number provider, or rather count provider. Okay, we say it's a state provider, right? And then we give it
Yes.
this zero we put here, makes it the initial value. So if you hover over the state provider now, you see that the dat analyzer has already given it an int. So
It's
if you
yes.
hover over this count provider, you see is a state provider
It's
int. Good. So this is the provider here. Now the idea is anytime this plus is pressed, it will increment. So what we can do is this. Now inside the build, we are going to be watching this provider. So we can say var count, the actual object is equal to, okay, first off, before that, we are going to have to convert this our stateful widget to a consumer stateful widget.
widget.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Okay.
you
Okay,
just
because
add
the thing is,
consumer.
most times I use consumer. I just use consumer widget only.
Yeah, it's also possible, but for virtually all my projects, if you look at my file structure for most of my projects, I use the model view MVC architecture. So I have my controller, and it's always a stateful widget, and then I have my view here, somewhere here. So the view is always a stateful widget. It doesn't cost anything per se. It's just people look at it like they want the number of lines to be smaller, but there is no direct, cost or something that it will do to your code. Then if it was a consumer, the same way. Where did I have a consumer? I think I have it here, and I know I have it somewhere. I just can't remember. But that one aside, ahead, like this one now is a consumer. So I just use the normal consumer stateful widget. I hardly ever use that one, but it doesn't mean that That's the only way. It just depends on your preference. So I will now, okay, before any other thing also, we are going to have to wrap our main in a provider scope. So we'll wrap this in a provider scope. Okay. After we've done that,
Yes, boss.
then we can now go ahead and say var count, the actual state. That's the state we are going to be watching, is equal to ref the watch. We are going to be watching the provider, that is the count provider, right? Good. Now if you hover
Yes,
over
boss.
this count, you will see that it is what? An integer. So once you watch a provider, it gives you that object you're watching. So remember that this count provider is a state provider of the count, of the int class or the int object. So when you watch a provider, you're going to have the object here. You get?
Yes, boss.
So we are now going to add this our count here. Count like this here. Now the next thing is about the increment. So let's just put everything inside here. So if you want to increment, I have to restart this. Good. So we want to increment. Now to increment, we just need to do something like this. Ref.read. You will read the count provider dot notifier dot state plus equal 1. So with this now, if I click on this plus button, it's going to start incrementing. You get? It's going to start incrementing this count. Now the simple thing that is happening is that we are watching this provider. So anytime the value changes, now if you read the documentation, you will see where Remy Rooslet warned you. He warned anybody that wants to use it, and he said, let me fetch it, where he talked about read and where he talked about read. Where is that place? Combining state providers. No, no, nope, 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 nope. I don't. Okay, I think he's here. Good. Now see what, if you look at this, he even, if you read the documentation, you see that it's red, telling you that it is danger. He said in clear English, if you used read as an attempt to avoid unwanted builds, refer to my provider updates too often. What can, okay, refer to my provider updates too often. What can I do? So this is just simply trying to say that this is not even what I was looking for. There is a place where he mentioned something about, this is not what I was looking for, when to read and when to watch. But
Watch.
basically, don't worry, let me just explain from what I
Okay.
understood.
What I use, I use read mostly when it comes to my press actually.
Yes, so when you do anything that has to do with calling a phone, like you want to change the state of that, if you use watch, it doesn't mean that it will not work. Oh, I think it should work. Let's see. You see, it's working. I don't know if you're getting it. It doesn't mean that it will not
Yes,
work,
yes.
but this using it may lead to, they call it, um, memory leakages. So it doesn't mean that it is not working. It is working, yes, but is it proper? No. And I believe in writing clean codes. I don't know if you understand
Yes,
me.
yes,
So it doesn't
yes.
mean it will not work, but it will begin to lead to leakages in the app's memory, and before you know it, you start having problems that you may not. Now, if your app start getting very very large, you begin to face problems, and you don't know where it is coming from. So that's why before you use any tool or technology, you try to go to the documentation and find out what's up. So that is it. So if, with this now we have it correct, but you may be wondering, the object here is still printing, and that is not bad. But if you want to stop this object from printing, that's where we can wrap this with a consumer. We can wrap it with a consumer, and then this thing takes a child, a ref rather. It takes the ref and then the child. Good. Now this is going to be, you can say I copied that, right? So you can come here. So with this now, if I add this thing, you see that this our print here is not printing anymore. Did you notice? So the widget tree is not rebuilding like it used to before. So what is happening is that only this place where we are interested in is now being rebuilt. You understand? And that's the beauty of using River. Are you here? Ah, the guy has left again. What's happening now?
It's my network that keeps going up back and forth. I don't know why. And I'm using MTN. I don't know why it just keep going back and forth.
So I was
Very,
saying
very sorry
that
about
after I wrapped the text with a consumer widget, you will notice that this print here is not happening again. So after the first time that it prints this object, even if I increment, you see it doesn't print anymore.
that. Yes, boss.
So that's because of this consumer. So if you don't want an expensive rebuild, so what is happening is that it's only this text widget that is being rebuilt. So the every other widget inside this widget tree, the state is being maintained. So only our widget here is affected. So that's how you can use you can use the state provider. Now let's say I don't want to use a state provider and I want to use, remember they said, when we open the documentation, you saw somewhere where he said that the state provider is a simplified state notifier.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and use a state notifier instead of a state provider. So if we want to use a state notifier, we'll make a class and we'll say count notifier. Okay, and it's going to extend state notifier provider, right? So we're going to just use this and add this thing. No, that's not it. State notifier provider. The this thing has it gone out? This thing, it used to be my help. I don't know why it is not working. You see, I don't think it's correct.
No, this is
Come,
correct. It's correct.
no, I'm seeing they shouldn't be extended. Is this a new change? Count notifier, state notifier provider. Are you sure the this hasn't changed? Well, let me open a project where I implemented something. Let me see. Um, let me see what is happening. Where did I use a notifier recently? Notifier. I don't think it's here. Okay, let me go to my GitHub. I have one. I can remember one in my GitHub. Somewhere here. Lead. Logic. Nope, not logic. Screens, yeah. Create events. Right? Nope. Okay. So state notifier rather. I was the one messing it up. So it's just state notifier. Good. So we want this thing to be int. So it's going to be, how is it again? Super 0. Good. Are you here?
I'm here. I'm with you, boss.
Okay. So you can see it was supposed to be a state notifier, not a state notifier provider. So you see, sometimes you forget things and you just go and read again. That's how it works. So this is our count notifier. So let's say we want to implement the increment. So let's make a function and we will say increment count, right? It doesn't need to take
Yeah.
anything. So it's going to be state plus equals 1. So you are incrementing the state. So let's we will now make a count provider 2. Count provider 2, and it's going to be a state notifier provider. This is where it comes in, and we are doing the count notifier, right? Like
Yes.
this. So this is it. Now if you hover, if you want to make it so that your length, you see, is showing object but we want you to show int, so you can just cast the type int, right? No, this should be
Yeah.
count notif wow, this should be count notifier. Good. So if you now hover, you will see is a count notifier and int. Good.
Int.
So let's, after this one, let's make our count 2. Let's make our count 2. Okay, let's put this inside a column, and then after the, we'll make another text. Okay, and then this will watch our count provider 2. Okay, you see that this is also an int, this one is also an int.
Yes.
So if we make this one 2, so everything is coming up nicely. So let's make this a block. Then for the second one, we can say ref the read count provider 2 dot notifier dot increment count. You see how this one is? So it's the same
Yes.
thing. The only thing is that we are calling this increment count that we've done here. So if I restart both of them now, so they are both at 0, and I start incrementing, you see, so they work exactly the same way. It's just that, like the documentation state says, state provider is a simplified state notifier provider. So you see the difference between the two, or rather the similarity between the two. Are you there?
I'm with you, boss. I'm with you.
But you're not replying.
No, I'm responding. It's a network that is kind of
Okay.
Philippines.
So you can see the similarity between the two. So this
Yes, boss.
this is for the, I told you out of the 4 I use how many? I use basically 3. I use basically 3, and I'm going to show you the third one, which is the future provider. So future provider is
Yes.
mainly for
Calling
making
API.
async, if you want to make an asynchronous call. So let me just go and let me what do I fake fake API. Okay, so let's say I want to let's say we want to get, okay, look at this now, beautiful. So let's say we want to hit this endpoint, right? I will just
Yes,
want to
boss.
get this endpoint now. So what we are going to do is that we are going to make a function, right? We are going to make a
Okay.
function. Let's call the function, don't mind that I'm putting everything in the same file. Oh. It's just
No problem.
for tutorial purpose. So we have a future, we'll still have our model, but for now let it be void, and then we'll say get from store. Okay, so it's going to be var deal is equal to deal. Okay, So let's look at it. This is supposed to be a get request, right? Let's look at
Yes,
the
boss.
final. It's supposed to be a get request. So let's copy the link or the URL. So if you copy, if you come here, we can say final response 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 is equal to await deal dot get. You are getting this, right? Okay, we need to make this async, right? So let's just print the response. Okay, so I think for this, let's put this in a row. Okay, let's put it in a row, and we'll say that the main as this size don't mean. Okay, and then we are going to have a second floating action button. So let's put a space between them. Size box width, let's make it 20. Good. So let this one be like a send icon. Okay, and then the function is going to just be get from store. So let's make it an expression. Good, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, boss. I'm with you.
Okay, so when we click on that, we get this response. So let's just try it out. Let's get the products. So you see it came back. So we have the ID, the title, a bunch of stuff. So let's create our model for this stuff. So let's create our class, and we're going to say fake model. The fake model is going to have final string I am or rather final int id, final string title, final double price. You can see where I'm looking at, Abby.
Yes, boss.
Final string description, then category men. So final string category, right?
Yes, boss.
Then final string image. Good. So we make our fake model, and then we'll do required this dot required this dot required this dot required this dot so we go again, required this dot required this dot I think that's all. So we've created our model, right? So we want to
Yes,
convert
boss.
this model. So we are going to make a static we are going to make a static or rather we are going to make a we want
What
to
is it called?
convert
Sorry.
from a map object to this. So we are going to make a fake model. Yeah, of course it's going to be static. So it's going to be a static fake model, and it's going to be from JSON.
JSON.
So
Yeah.
we have the map string dynamic, and we'll call it data. So we'll just return what the fake model, right? So this
Yes.
will go like this, data. This will go, oh my god, I just missed it. This will go like this, data data data. That was bad. Data. Good. So we've just created our from JSON. Now what we now need to do is we'll return this fake model here. So we'll say return response dot what no we'll return rather we'll return
It
fake model
uh,
dot from
dot
JSON,
from JSON. Yes.
and then we'll return the response dot
Dot
what
body.
dot data. This is a
Okay, sorry, data.
this is deal, yeah. So we've
So
done
is HTTP that is using dot body.
yes.
Sorry.
Now what we'll do here is that we are going to above this place, above this you've pushed, we are going to create we are going to have a container, right? Or rather we'll
Yes,
just
boss.
have another we'll have another consumer. If you want to make it a consumer, it's fine. If you want to put it inside this build, it's also fine. It all depends on you. So but let me just put it here. Let me put it here. So we'll have a consumer, and then the builder will have a context, we'll have the ref, and then we'll have the child, and good. So we are going to say rather let's use something like this. The so we are going to say var var fake model is equal to ref the watch. What are you watching? Okay, of course you're going to
If
create your provider, your var fetch provider provider and it's going to be a feature provider, right? It's going to be a feature
yes,
provider, and you will get from store. Good. Now meaning that this is not going to be, we don't even need this anymore. So here is going to be our fetch provider. So we can say fake model dot when. I like to use this when. So the value, we can have a text that says done. Then the error will have a trace. It has a trace. These are things that it takes.
is
Okay.
is stack trace. So I mean, it's not okay. Sorry,
No, it's just a
I thought
name you
it's
want to call it. So we'll have
okay. Okay.
the trace. Okay, and then this is our loading indicator. So we'll just put in a center. I just saw something close button. They added a close button. That's nice. So we'll have our circular progress indicator dot adaptive. Good. So with this now, I think we are good to go.
We're having an error zone.
No,
There's an
we are
error
supposed to
zone.
return this stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's make our work very very neat. We'll add all the. So when we restart, let's see. So the data comes back, meaning that it did not fail. So for this data, we are going to have a column. We are going to have a column. Then the children, you have image.network, image.network, and it's going to be value dot image, right? It's going to be value dot image. So we can reduce the size. We can say that the width is like 100 and the height is like 100. Height, the height is 100, right? So
Yes, boss.
we can go ahead, all of those things we said. So we can have a text that tells you the name of the, that's value dot title, or rather title.
Wow.
So you have this, you can go ahead and add the description, you see. So you can center it if you want. You can say text align dot center. You can center it. So you see it's becoming much more. So we can even go ahead and and remove this. I don't know, anything you want to do. Okay, let's do it like you want to add a cart, so we can go ahead and remove this. Okay, so
Yes, boss.
this is basically it. If there's any other thing like the price, okay, of course the price you can add the price anywhere you want. So it's just you going ahead. If this was a design, you go ahead and add every other thing in
Implement
it.
it.
And then one very 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 good thing about Riverpod is that you don't need to worry about using a try catch inside this place. I don't even do it. Now let's say that for any reason, let's say I hit 100. I don't know if that product exists, but let's just say, you see, now the error will throw up on the screen. You can see it says, you can see the error now. It says get from store
Sequence
package
of
Riverpod.
suspension.
Exactly. Now what this means is that if I go here now and make this a body, and I say print error, no, print error dot
Not
runtime
to
type,
string.
no, the runtime type,
Okay.
or is it the trace? Wait, let me see the trace. No. Okay, wait, let me just print the error. There is something I'm expecting. Good, good. Now you can see the error here. It says the error that came back. It actually means that, where is it? It means that this there was a problem here. Meaning that if you watch now, let me print something here. Object. Let me print this object. Okay, wait. Calm down. Let me see something. Print response. Let me print response and be sure of what is happening. Okay, response itself came back as null. So we can handle that by making this nullable. So we can say, since this is nullable, we can come here and say if value is not equal to null. So we are going to have another column of widgets here. So you can easily copy this stuff, Ctrl X, and put it inside here. You see, it handles everything. So after this
Okay.
if statement, you can say else. Let's just tell the person, let's just show a text that says product does
Not
not
available.
exist exist, right? So if I
Yes, boss.
restart now, why is it still happening? Null is not. Okay. Another problem is that this our response came back as null, so we can't actually get a data from it. So you can say response 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 the objects can be returned. Okay, let's do this. Response is not equal to null. We'll return this. If so, return null.
You added no. You added S. That error is you added. Yeah.
Where is this error coming from? This one want to come and become a problem. But we'll still find it though. No good Graham. Let's see where it is coming from. So it's coming from response. It's coming from this response. So this response is saying that it is null, but I don't actually think it's null. Let's print response.data. Let's print response.data. Good. So this rather will be response.data. So if I restart now, so I think we've solved it. So you see, you don't need to use any kind of try catch. I'm even against using try catch, because now what happens when we use try catch? It actually thinks, how will I explain it? It doesn't get to this error part. If you use a try catch, it doesn't get to this error. Just know that unless it's not Riverpod you're using, but if you're using Riverpod, for best practices, you don't use a try catch, because this error, this trace will take care of it. Now if it was a network error, so let's just say inside here, I will just let me raise, how is it, how do I even raise an error? I thought it's raise, it's not raise. Okay, throw socket exception, or rather let me, yes, let me throw socket exception. Okay, we don't need this anymore. So let me show you something. You see, now this socket exception happens when you don't have data abi. So let's just say for any
Yes.
reason the person doesn't have data. So now if you come down to this place and print the error, you see it's a socket exception. So you can now begin to handle stuffs like this. You can say if error dot runtime type is equal to socket exception. So you tell the person return text no internet connection. So if this is the problem, you tell the person no internet connection. Now let's throw another exception. Let's throw a deal exception. Let's throw a deal error of deal error dot bad response. Okay, draw deal error dot bad response. So let's say the status code is 400. The request option, let's say request option, and then this. Good. Now let's work with this now. You see another error. So if you go down here and print the error, you would see the kind of error. So you see it's a deal error, and you can see the bad response. So you can go ahead and say else if, stuff like that. So you can now handle different instances of error message. So if it was a deal error, if it is a socket error, you know what to display to the person. So if he comes back with 500, I think 500 is that your server is down. I'm not an expert in this http error status codes, but let's say it comes back with 500. You can tell the person that our server is busy at the moment. You can just basically handle different stuffs on your own. So that's
Yes, boss.
the idea, and that's why I keep saying that if you're using Riverpod, you don't have to use try catch, because it takes care of things for you. So I'll go ahead and remove all those examples we did, so it doesn't confuse. I think this is where we are. Right, this is where we are supposed to be. Okay, there is still problem. I need to change this to 1. Okay, we did not do something. No, abi,
What is
this
that?
this button that was, let's say that this button is to fetch it again. So instead what we can do is we can do something like this: ref.refresh, rather, fetch provider. So if you do this and let you refresh now, okay, it will not appear back. So let's say that this is let's say that this is the count provider. Let's say this started from 1 and this is the count provider itself that you are watching. So what is there a mistake somewhere? Count provide, oh, not count provider, rather. Let's say we have an integer here. Okay, yeah, this will explain it better. Let's use the dot family. You know there is a family. If you look at the documentation, you're going to see the you're going to see, where is it? Nope, I'm looking for something else. Yes, you can see the modifier. So there is dot family and there is auto dispose. So let's say we want to do dot family. So family basically means, let's say we want to be passing different integers like 1, 2 and stuff like that. Let's say this is the ID we want to get. You understand? So this is going to
Yeah.
be int ID. So here we are going to have ID, and then here we are going to have the ID. You see how we implemented it?
Yes.
So we'll pass down this ID down here. So here we'll have to pass down the, we'll have to be reading the value. We are using the count provider, right? We are using this count here. Good. Now here too, we'll have to refresh. No, let's not worry about this refresh for now. I will use it later. Let's make sure that what we have is working. So you see it came back. Now if I increment, which one is for count provider? Okay, if I increment this now, you see it changes. Did you get what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
anytime this thing changes, you see we are getting different values. Okay, their stuff is now having problem. So if you want to handle this, I think it should be in this. Maybe we can make it norm. Where is that our model? So we can, I think we can use norm and see if it will clear it. So let's just try. It was at 5, it broke. Okay, you see we got past that, meaning that norm handled it. So that way we can do whatever we want. I think so. That was it for the tutorial. Then I wanted to say something about refresh. Refresh is basically, when something happens and you want to show the person try again. So you can use
Yeah.
refresh for that. So you can go ahead and say ref dot refresh. What do you want to refresh? You want to refresh the fetch provider with, let's say, let it start from 1 again or something. So you can, when this one happens, am I getting it? I'm in 2 now. Of the refresh. Okay, I don't think he's making that call. I don't think he's making that call because everything is working correctly. Like we don't have any errors. But if for any reason our feature provider broke inside, if you use the refresh, it's going to call it again and the whole thing will rebuild itself, as in it will fetch just like a try again something. You understand? So but
Yes.
everything is okay here. So that's why it is not doing the try again stuff. So that's basically it. I will push this code to the, is there any question?
Okay. No. Not really for it now. But where I have challenge on that particular project I showed to you is I'm trying to implement a delete now because no, you did that add to cart. You understand? We were able to add to cart on that one, but now of which now I also did something on that particular add to cart. I'll share the APK of the app to you. So there's a functionality where the user has to click on when they